Welcome back. At the beginning of this season, AFL umpires were issued with new instructions on how to interpret ruck contests. The result has been a degree of confusion. Umpires coach David Levins joins us. David, thanks for dropping in. Well, with bribery and drugs and tribunals and knees, the umpires are off the front pages. You'd be happy.
I am happy, Tim, so that being the case, yes.
And what about them? Are they happy in their baggy shorts and their stripes and their powder blue and so on?
Well, it's certainly different, isn't it? It's generated a bit of discussion. I think it's important, though, that athletes are in looser fitting clothing, and that's certainly what it is. And as I said, generate a lot of discussion, but as long as their interest and their focus is on doing the job as best we can, I think that's what's important to me, certainly.
And generally, what mark would you give them for the first 3 rounds?
Look, I think we've done pretty well with... after 3 rounds, there's been a lot of football. We've had 3 new guys in this year, young blokes. They certainly haven't been letting us down. And I think in any game we can draw some incidents out of and have a look. But I think we're certainly in the 8.
Good place to be. Lee, did you...
I was just going to say, why were the boundary umpires put into those pale blue outfits? What was the reasoning behind that?
Oh, Lee, for the last 2 or 3 years, there's been some concern the timekeepers have had, particularly now with, as you know, as soon as the ball crosses the line, the clock stops. And some timekeepers have had trouble distinguishing the boundary umpires. And there are another...
From who? The field umpire?
Well, no, but either field umpire or the crowd, the sponsors' banners at the back. It has been difficulty from their association. So we looked at pink armbands, and that went over very well.
Yes, remember
so the thought was,
that's
right. The thought was, well, let's look at having the boundary umpires in a different colour. So that's really the history of it, and that's where we are.
Well, this is a relatively new television program, David, but we're going to an old-fashioned format, a touch of What's Your Decision, and we've got some interesting rucking ones, which I'm sure Justin will watch with considerable interest. And first we go to the match between the Bears and Footscray in round 1. Now, at first glance, would you know which way that was going?
Well, it would seem to me that the Footscray players infringed the Brisbane player.
You've read it well. Grant's pushed him, hasn't
Well, that's the free I would think is paid. The field umpire needs to be satisfied that the players are making the ball the objective. Now, White certainly, to my look there, was going for the football, and the umpire, I would suggest, has deemed that Grant has pushed White. If so, that should be a free kick.
Before we look at any more, what are the basic ruck interpretations the umpires are operating under?
Well, certainly we've changed the interpretation this year. We've become more technical, as we're aware, and I think we know the history to that. We don't...
Yes, Justin, we do.
That's for sure.
and Justin's aware of that as well.
Absolutely.
So we needed to do something. We needed to be a little more proactive in ruck contests, and we have to take the rap over the last couple of years. We've certainly let a fair bit go. And I think football wants a fair bit.
That's enough of the politics.
Right.
What exactly are the rules?
So we need to, we say the spirit of the law is important. That is, both players should be able to contest the football. Now, if one player in that contest prevents him from doing so, we should be penalising that infringement. Be it a hold, be it a block, be it a shepherd, be it a push-out.
David, in that instance, undoubtedly the player did push White from Brisbane, but my concern was... Now, we've gone on to the next one.
Primus from Saturday. We'll get to your question in a moment. We'll just concentrate on the slow-mo here, Justin, for a moment, and it might help answer your question. Why is Matthew Primus infringing there?
That seems to me not to be a free kick. The reason I say that, picking up on Lee's point, both players should be able to go for the football. Now, Primus grabbed the front position. He should be able to do that, which means the player from behind, he should be able to go for the football as well. Now, I don't think Primus, from what I saw in the clip there, should have been penalised for shepherding.
Well, if he uses his arm at all?
Oh, if Primus throws his arm across the other player, and we're seeing more of that early in the piece we did this year, in boundary contests, that should be a free kick. But from what I saw in the clip there, I thought the Fitzroy player had front position, eyes on the footy, was going the ball, and should have been play on.
Look, we'll just keep going while we're hot on this, and we'll get back to your question, Justin, but we've got another coming up featuring Primus again and Ilya Grigic. This is from Saturday at the Whitten Oval.
It's the night game, actually.
Yes, it is, at Waverley.
Now, it seemed there to me that now the umpire would have a better view. We're looking at the backs. If Primus threw his arm across Grigic in a blocking motion or a shepherding motion like there, that would be a free kick. Now, we spoke of that early in the season. In Ansett Cup matches, in fact, visited clubs and spoke to clubs and ruckmen about it, and so there, hence a correct free kick. Because the player shouldn't be throwing his arm across. He should be going for the football. We're deeming that to be shepherding, and we sent those instructions to clubs.
I think that one's a pretty straightforward one from my understanding, so I don't have a problem
I would have thought the previous one was almost the same, though, that he basically took front position and kept his opponent away from the ball, which is why he was free kick.
He can take front position, but in that the latter, we penalised for the arm across.
Yes.
So you can push back with your back, but not your arms.
Certainly hold your ground, but we needed to eliminate that. Usually led to wrestling or the scragging and holding on. So we've penalised those.
Just one more, and this is from the Whitten Oval on Saturday with James Cook. Cook of Fitzroy and Wind of Footscray.
There's no free kick there. And we went over this game Saturday night at our Western Suburbs venue in our post-match reviews. I don't see an infringement there. The only infringement, if the umpire deemed that the player's arm was grabbed, and the clip certainly doesn't show that, I thought that was an unwarranted free kick, and we did not in our review, as a matter of fact.
Justin, has your question been answered, or
no, not really. I mean, there's a couple of questions I want to ask tonight. I feel like Neil busy actually, so it's good having the video and the whole bit. But one of those is that...
Just don't give him too many weeks.
No, that's right. One of the ones that I'm interested in is where, like on the first one, where White actually won the ruck contest but was in some way infringed, is there a need to call those? Like if I push, say if I'm contesting and I do push the player, but he wins the hit out, you know, in a good way anyway and gets the ball down, it's almost like an advantage thing. In a sense, I may have infringed, but I haven't actually stopped him from getting through the play or getting to the ball. So that's one that I'm concerned about, is that you're sort of stopping for the sake of stopping.
Okay, I understand the question. I think it's a good point. But we need, if we're going to be consistent, and we might argue difficult across 24 umpires per round, we need to be consistent in our interpretation. So if it's an infringement, we need to penalise it and not wait for, admittedly, a second or two, but wait for the outcome. And look, the body-on-body is terrific in a lot of ruck contests. And Tim, I think the players have done very well. Frankly, I think they've done very well.
They learn quickly, don't they?
They do. And I think the body-on-body, we're letting go. We're just letting that go. People come together. We'd call it coincidental contact. But if they're going for the football, like we see in marking contests, coincidental contact, when the ball's the objective, we want that let go.
Yes, you can't treat ruck contest in isolation from the rest of the game, can you? If you've got front position, you should be allowed to do something to hold it, surely.
We're saying that.
Now, one other question, one of the ones I've been caught up in the last few weeks is the centre line. If I run across the centre line at a centre contest and still make the contest, but I take some of the yardage of the other player out by crossing the line, but haven't shepherded with my arms, but have put my body onto the other player, how does that fit into the scheme of things? Is that a shepherd, or is that taking out the line of the player?
No, you can't cross the line until the ball has been bounced.
No, that's all right. So the ball's been bounced. They go up pretty high these days because you've got them well trained. So, you know, in that time while it's up, I rush across the line and try and take some of his space. And maybe I stand there because I'm old and I don't jump very well these days. You know, if I've still got my eyes on the ball, is that a legitimate technique, do you think?
Well, there's two I recall. I was at the Carlton Essendon game, and you were free kicked.
And I was pretty tired at this stage.
I understand. It was towards the end of the game. It was terrific.
Right.
But our view of that was that you've explained it as you were. You came in, and then you didn't make the ball the objective. You propped. To take, I think Somerville was the other player who received the free kick. So Somerville was going for the football, or eyes on it, ball the objective, and Justin's come in and just propped. Sure, it was late in the game.
Sure. Don't worry about that.
I saw those, and we saw those as warranted infringements on the day.
What has been the average number of ruck free kicks paid over the 3 rounds?
I don't have that off the top of my head. I don't know.
David, we've got
certainly they're cleaner.
Very curly, what's your decision for you coming up now? We'd like you to have a good close look at this one, and we would like a very impartial assessment. Who is the offending player? Who is the offensive player?
I haven't shepherded there, have I? I haven't used my arms at any stage.
Well, Jimmy's the one who's actually pushing back. He's the one who's infringing, David, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. And this is where
Jimmy Stowers we're talking.
Had we have gone on the front foot there, we didn't. But blow the whistle straight up. there's one player wanting to go to the footy, the other guy wanting to, blocking him out, or shepherd it as we're calling it. It might have been a bit different.
Got to resort to those unfair tactics to beat
can
you,
I still
Justin,
use
don't
that
they?
technique? I'm just interested.
I prefer when you don't, Burrow.
I don't like particularly
What,
like,
the head
I get a sore head by the end of the day, but I'm just interested whether I should still pursue it or not.
David, thanks for joining us. We had a bit more to get through, but we'll do that another time because there are all sorts of issues. There always are, always will be, and I'm sure at some stage later this season we'll have a talk about some of them.
Sure.
Thanks for coming along. And Justin, as we thank you and say farewell,
Yes.
you might have read the other day, I think in the Sunday Age, that Mike Brady was asked about dope. Of course, it's been in the news recently, marijuana smoking, and he said that if he'd written up there Kazali while he was smoking dope, it would have come out sounding like Kevin Johnson's Football I Thank You for 100 Years. Well, I don't know what Mike was on when he wrote this song, but it's a great song and it's about a great player.
We can hear you coming, Harry, with your two left feet and your head up in the clouds. With the pace of a tortoise and the grace of a clown, a dinosaur to the crowds.
Madden is 30 metres in the clear. Red giving chase. What a sprint. This is something to watch.
6'10" and 17 stone, feet stuck to the ground, never on your own. No Harry Madden, you're no talk. Do you hear them, Harry, when they say, get him on? You're 5'3" and just 10 stone. You're running like the wind. You're out on your own. Go for it, Justin. You're on the ball. You're not a dinosaur. You're a rover after all. You're not a dinosaur. You're a rover after all.
Thanks very much, Tim.
Been an interesting career, hasn't it?
So far, so good.
Lots of highs and lows. So far, so good, and a few years left, I hope. Justin Madden joining us, and also David Levins, the AFL umpires coach. Well, we've still got aspects of the weekend's rounds of matches to talk about. We'll have some post-match press conferences and a walk down memory lane with Bob Skilton when we return in more football feedback.
They jump on the loud pedal, and it's the wild child from the outside.
They're big, they're fast, they're loud, and they're here. The 5th round of the Australian Touring Car Championship from Phillip Island. Tonight at 9 on Sports Australia.
This month on the Movie Network, a must-see bestsellers festival, including The Burning Season, a shocking real-life story about the brutal slaying of Chico Mendes, leader of a passionate protest movement to protect the Amazon rainforest. Amy Tan's international bestseller, The Joy Luck Club, is brilliantly brought to life in Oliver Stone's epic production. If you love The Commitments, you'll love The Snapper, Roddy Doyle's comedy with a uniquely Irish view on little accidents and family planning, only on the Network of the Stars.
A game that's lasted longer than me. I'd like to see that.
Unbelievable. Horizon Learning Channel, a totally new concept in television where learning is fun.
Commençons par mes parents.
The fun of learning a foreign language at home.
Voilà mon père et ma mère.
An extensive range of subjects.
As we learn more about the physics of stars, we're able to refine our models of stellar structure and make more accurate predictions.
One channel entirely for home education. Horizon Learning Channel.
Welcome back. Well, the AFL Tribunal is having a busy night. We've already heard of a 2-week suspension for Footscray's James Cook and a $2,000 wrestling fine for Melbourne's Jeff Hilton. The last time we spoke to Rob Gaylard, there were a couple more cases to come, and I think there might be news of an extremely busy week in store. Rob?
Yeah, very much so, Tim. Just quickly, I'll touch on the other couple of charges because they've virtually been thrown out. The one of Daryl Wakelin from St Kilda, he pleaded not guilty to the charge of wrestling, actually, with Marcus Seekamp and Vicky Verker, and there wasn't enough evidence to convict both those players. On the final charge of Wakelin, he also was reported by goal umpire Laurie Page in the fact that he did strike Marcus Seekamp. Again, very conflicting evidence from the goal umpire. Strange that the goal umpire would report them for striking, and yet the central umpire reported them for wrestling. So it was virtually thrown out. But the sensation here tonight is, Tim, that 11 players from that melee that we saw on Friday night between Geelong and Adelaide will be up before the tribunal tomorrow night. I'm going to name names. Pickering, Scholl, Tanner, Graham, Colbert and Hall for Geelong will be up before the tribunal. From Adelaide, A and D Jarman, Smart and Jamison. And to top it off, the Adelaide runner in Peter Jonas has also been cited on the video charge from that melee. So it's going to be a busy night here tomorrow night.
Well, that's sensational news, and obviously the AFL undaunted by the criticism of their reaction to the Easter Monday melee between Melbourne and Collingwood. Now, both of those clubs, Adelaide and Geelong, with big matches to come at the weekend. Geelong go to Perth to face the West Coast Eagles, who will be stung by a couple of straight losses, and Adelaide, in hot form, unbeaten after 3 rounds, host Essendon at Football Park. So we'll watch those with interest, although I suppose fines are more likely than suspensions, but we shall wait and see. Neil Busy will be doing his worst, perhaps. We're about to do our best in our weekly Best of the Best.
Richmond and Brisbane first, and a close one for Campbell.
Deep into the scoring zone, a big pack of players, and Campbell gets a boot to it, did he? Yes, he did.
A big leap from Matthew Richardson.
Oh!
Daryl White.
A player who could make this look bone easy. Now,
don't tell me.
What did I say?
A major from Fletcher.
Rain almost, it's very high, in towards full forward. No mark's going to be paid. It could have gone to Prescott. Instead, Fletcher may kick a goal.
But Wayne's not so sure. To Footy Park, Liam Pickering, a great snap.
Pickering's kick is pretty good. That's a goal, I'd suggest. Great kick by Liam Pickering.
Enter the Jarman brothers.
Andrew Jarman. Goal close.
Been prominent, Rashudo. Wider to Darren Jarman. One bounce. Great kick to the goal square. That's a goal.
Tony McGuinness, a bit of class.
Back on his right foot. This will be close. It looks good. It's got McGrath over
and a bit of the other.
McGuinness caught with the shorts.
Matthew Liptak went down.
The path of Liptak. Little too severe for Edwards. Liptak gets it back. Was that tackle high?
As did Peter Riccardi.
Line. Riccardi. Oh, strong goal provided by Darren Jarman.
Out to Waverley. Darren Crocker.
Towards the full forward area once more. Crocker at the second attempt. That's a terrific mark.
Wayne Carey.
Or boxing.
Carey. Well, he's recovered. Spreading as the pack. Looks like 10-pin bowling down there. That would have been a strike.
Craig Treleaven.
To get rid of it pretty quickly. Now a chance for a goal. Treleaven, nowhere to go. Over his shoulder. Not a bad sort of a snap. Oh, great goal. Terrific effort, and he's kicked it.
At the Western Oval, Chris Grant. At the SCG, Paul Kelly.
Oh, Kelly! And plays on, hits the ground running.
Scotty Russell.
There, Russell sells the dummy once, now goes for goal. Oh, that is a miraculous goal. Fantastic play from Scott Russell.
Wade Chapman.
High kick back towards centre wing. Oh, Chapman!
First touch in footy, Matthew Nix.
Up towards centre wing.
Great individual effort, Dale Lewis.
Dale Lewis shows dash to his captain. Back to Dale Lewis. A shot at goal by Dale Lewis, if you don't mind.
Andrew Dunkley rearranges the furniture.
Pulls the kick. Oh, God, look at that behind post. And he does not blink an eyelid.
at Waverley. Cockatoo Collins.
Cockatoo Collins, nicely done. 45 metres out, pulls it back. Good effort. Great goal.
Calthorpe, soccer style.
Calthorpe.
At Subiaco yesterday, Winston on the run.
Abraham. Winston, he's off. He'll take them all on. He's had 2 bounces, 3. He runs the 50. He said, come at me. The kick's on its way. It's a sensational goal.
And Winston in the air.
Quick snap by Mann. Backing back, and it's a great mark. Winston Abraham.
And finally, a screamer from Sean Smith.
That's Nettlebeck. A high kick lands about... Oh, what a mark! Smith!
Some of the highs of round 3, and Andrew Dunkley would have brought back a few memories. Lee Matthews, do they not make footballers like they used to, or do they make behind posts a bit stronger?
He only bent it. Anyone can bend it. Smash him to smithereens. That's really what you're going to do.
Yes, Lee, for anyone who wasn't aware of it, smashed one at Windy Hill a few years ago.
That's great image-building stuff.
No one knows. Certainly was.
I don't tell many people, but really the thing cracked at the joint at the top, but don't tell too many people, whatever you do.
On a serious note, you saw the 2 unbeaten teams, Adelaide and North Melbourne, over the weekend.
Yep.
How are they shaping?
Well, saw them both live. Adelaide were sensational against Geelong. Geelong had a bad night. Adelaide had a good night and won by a big margin, and they're looking pretty good. I'm still not convinced about them just yet, that they're one of the top 3 or 4 sides in it. North Melbourne I am. I think they're a terrific team. I mean, they've lost Longmire, they've lost Schwash, but they seem to be bringing in players, the Freeborns, Adam Simpson, guys that aren't really household names but are really quite good players. And with McKernan playing the ruck position, he's playing ruck forward as opposed to most ruckmen going ruck and then back to defence. And he's proving at this point impossible for opposition sides to counter.
OK, Adelaide and North Melbourne in particular looking very good, both unbeaten, and a happier scene at Footscray after the weekend's round. The Bulldogs breaking through for their first win of the season. And remember last week we spoke to Peter Gordon, Footscray's president, about their round 2 crisis and Alan Joyce's situation as coach.
Did Alan Joyce, for instance, offer to resign if that was going to help the cause, for instance, as a token gesture?
Well, I'm not going to go into what Alan may or may not have done, Lee. I have told you that he asked to see us, and but I guess what I can say is that the view was expressed pretty commonly that in the emotion and the emotionally drained atmosphere of something like that, that's not the time to make sensible decisions, and there's very much a view that we ought to just take the night and convene, the next day and have a long, hard look at things at that point.
Tense time last week for Peter Gordon, and you said that watching Alan Joyce's press conference actually made you feel physically ill.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, really, when you've had a bad day and you've got to face the press, and it's not so much facing the press, I think it's just the fact that you feel so responsible being the coach, and it's a really draining time. So I can understand what Joyce was feeling last week. So they say a week's a long time in football, and 7 days has brought very different emotions out at Footscray, hasn't it?
Well, one of the Sunday papers had a huge full-frame photo of the Joyce visage with a huge smile on his face. I've never seen him smile so broadly. Let's have a look at how he was through his post-match press conference after Footscray's first win of the season out at the Whitten Oval.
Sorry, did you offer your resignation last week?
Did I? Yes, I did.
Why? Because
I just thought we were in a dilemma, and I thought after the game, against North Melbourne, it was, and I said to the board, they've given me tremendous support since I've been here, and they were continuing to support me. And I just thought, under the circumstances, probably to take the pressure off them, if they just wanted to go that way, I'd be prepared to do it. And it was great to have fellas like this come up to me after and said, I'm glad you didn't.
What did they say that changed your mind?
Well, they just wanted me, and they thought they had the coach they wanted, and they thought they had the match committee in place that they had put in, and they were prepared to run with it and back us in whatever we wanted to do. So, I saw that as a terrible positive thing from the club, and but I just thought under my responsibility of where we were last week was pretty low, as regards a side and a coach was, and I just thought I'd at least offer them some sort of solution if they wanted to take that. We hit a wall last Saturday night, obviously, but I'm very looking, the players are, so we're looking forward to getting back in the MCG next week.
And a happier scene than the previous Saturday, almost predictable though, and I think most people would have tipped Footscray to win that game against Fitzroy and might have tipped them even against a few other teams in the comp, because that syndrome, the week of soul searching, seems to be a pretty effective way of producing at least one win, Lee.
Well, yes, you usually get a positive result when there's that sort of crisis soul search meeting. It's when you have those meetings every week you know you're in trouble. And Footscray now have broken the mould, as it were. They've got the win on the board and played pretty well into the process by the sounds of it. So it's now sort of reproducing that form on a consistent basis week by week. I mean, really, we jump to conclusions early in the year, don't we? I mean, the side has a couple of bad games. we sort of the survival mode, I think, which is on a lot of the Melbourne clubs, tends to create this crisis. But yeah, they've got the win on the board, and it's amazing, isn't it? Melbourne and Footscray have won a game, and they're now equal with the Eagles and Collingwood. So
St Kilda and Fitzroy are in crisis.
Yes,
poor old
absolutely.
Fitzroy. I mean, they had 3 games on their home ground at the start. It looked as though they could score 1, maybe even a couple of wins, and it couldn't have been worse timing for them, the Footscray situation in the lead up to that match.
Well, it appears that was the worst game that they've had. I mean, they were pretty competitive against Hawthorn. They weren't that far away in scoring shots against the Crows, but as the game wore on Saturday, Footscray just drew well clear. And again, new coach syndrome. Fitzroy should start the year with a fair bit of emotion. So for them to be able to still not have a win and to keep going, well, that's their challenge at this point.
Time to pause and put together the music of music and the music of football in our weekly roll tape. What was the best thing you saw at the weekend, Lee?
Well, I saw some unusual things. I can remember Friday night, the Crows were 7 goals in front 10 minutes to go in the third quarter, and Robert Shaw decided to pack the back line just to make sure that the Geelong couldn't get the last few goals to give them any hope at three-quarter time. And the two games at VFL Park over the weekend, Hawthorn and the Eagles, who were just that far behind at half-time they couldn't win, so they just completely packed the back line in the second half, effectively so they wouldn't get beaten by 20 goals, so they'd only get beaten by 10. So they were some interesting tactical decisions at different stages.
It all sounds a bit defensive and depressing. I think we might start talking goals. And coming up, our weekly Sharpshooters segment. One of the great sharpshooters of all time, Peter Dacos, joins us every week. And Dakes, it was good to see Plugger back among the goals, but he picked the wrong team to do it against.
Well, he did, Tim, and I felt he may have he had the opportunity to kick 10 or 12 goals. I just felt the Swans really didn't deliver the ball all that well to him. And but again, he was back to his Plugger best, his movement, getting plenty of space on the forward line to do that. And I just felt there's been a lot of criticism of O'Brien over recent weeks, saying that he's been getting in the big fella's way, and as soon as he left the ground, Plugger went crazy. He had 6 to half-time, and here's an instance here where Philandia brings the ball on the forward line, and he's just terrific at that, isn't he?
How many do you think he has to kick for the Swans to win on their average day, Dakes? Just how important is it to them?
Well, I think for the Swans to have any chance, Leo, he's got to be up around 7. With 6, I don't think they're a chance. 5 or 6, he's got to be up around 7. And yesterday they had a sprinkling of players, not a lot. I think there was 10 goals kicked to half-time, of which Plugger had 9 to half-time. Plugger had 6, Wade Chapman 2, and there was 1 from Lewis.
This is probably what makes him so special, isn't it? We know what a great mark he is in the contest, but it's that ground-level agility that he possesses as well.
Well, he's an amazing big man. I mean, he's got everything, really. He's got the size, very hard to man up, naturally, and then if you play a bigger guy on him, you've got his movement, you know, sort of ground level, and he's giving off the ball a little bit these days as well. He'll work his way up to the ground and looks for his options well. So he's good with the ball once the ball is in his hands.
That's the soft, caring side of Big Plugger. I don't know whether too many have seen it yet, but in contrast, Matthew Richardson showing tremendous form. We've talked about knees tonight, and he's back from one, and he looks the type that you almost wince at when you see him going for the ball, because, as we said last week, he's like a leggy colt, and you just wonder about those joints. I hope they're sound.
Well, they are after his performance on Saturday night. I think you hit it on the head there, Tim. That's the first thing I look for, and you look for that in a player that is coming back from a serious injury like a knee. He threw himself at the ball, and he did run 30 or 40 metres at each time to get involved and present himself and get to the ball. So he was good in that instance, and there was a bit of a lucky one where there was a bit of a turnover. He sat back in the square, but they actually started up the ground early in the game, moved back later on, and was a terrific player. They looked for him at every opportunity, and again, their midfield was very good on Saturday night and created plenty of opportunities for him.
Isn't it amazing? I just think it's fantastic when those players who float into the air sort of do that. He just sort of, and Sean Smith is the same, isn't it? When they just launch themselves, it's an exciting part of the game when players do that.
Well, you can liken him to Royce Hart a little bit, that sort of floating across a pack, and he will throw himself in, and again, that confidence seems to be back. His marking ability is good. He's taking his 1 grabbers. I mean, he's only just back. And it was interesting, you had Julian on talking about knees, and he does play with that heavily strapped knee, and it doesn't seem to restrict him, and he did. I think in the end, really, he was one of the top scorers on the ground, 4 goals, and he can only get better, really, because his movement even on the ground was terrific.
Well, a third sharpshooter tonight, and we said Richardson's the young colt. He's a well-bred colt, son of a league footballer. Here's a bolter in Jason Watts, who kicked half a dozen.
Well, that was a little bit lucky there. Dent really going for the bump and really should have tackled, and that was sort of presented to him. But what I noticed about a lot of his goals, he did mark on all occasions, so it doesn't give me a good indication about his leg speed. I wouldn't say he's an overly quick player. We don't see from a lot of these clips a lot of his ground level play, but very good in the body department. And with a win like that, Lee, out at the Western Oval, it becomes very tricky, especially to that scoreboard end. And I back in my playing days, I tended to like to play from behind because it's very hard to judge a ball coming in. It tended to float over the back on a lot of occasions. And lot of times his opponents played in front, and he sort of put that to his advantage, used his body, and again there using his body, keeping his opponent out, and then last minute lunging for the ball.
Well, of course, he normally plays down the other end. He's played more as a defender than as a forward. So this was a rare occasion that, in fact, he's played in the forward part of the ground, close to goal.
Didn't seem to get flustered either, kicking for goal. You know, so he was very accurate for goal, and so I think in coming weeks he's going to really get. It's going to become a thing where the pressure comes on, a little bit of homework, and I think he's got to come up now and prove that he can consistently do it week in, week out. I mean, they won't look for 6 goals every week, but certainly he'd have to be around the 3 mark.
And ever so briefly, Dakes, we don't do drugs or gambling on this program, but if you were having a flutter, who would your money be on for the Coleman now with Ablett missing for another 6 weeks? 4 weeks?
Well, Richardson would have to be up there. It's interesting even with the forwards now.
No contest. Lockett.
Lockett?
Richardson
will be up
might, if he has an exceptional year, because he's going to play up the ground as much as full forward, he might. If he kicked 100, that'd be exceptional, whereas Lockett could kick, he's 120, you'd only have an ordinary year for him.
If he stays fit and out of trouble.
Well, that goes for everyone else for that matter.
Well, I say Richardson because of supply, really. They've got a terrific midfield, Richmond, and Swans are yet to prove to me that they've got to be able to do what they did against Collingwood on Sunday, week in, week out, and very important. I mean, he had a bit of a lull the first 2 weeks. He hasn't kicked a lot of goals, and maybe he can do it on the smaller Sydney cricket ground.
You mentioned Richmond and its midfield, and what a performance up at the Gabba, because Brisbane went in there on a roll, perhaps too much of a roll. I wonder if they were just having that almost inevitable letdown after about the biggest win in their history. Yeah,
possibly. I mean, it's hard to tell. I mean, it's so early in the season, and the Bears had good wins their first 2 games, beat the Eagles in Perth, and travelled overnight to come back on the Saturday night after the Perth game. I mean, you're only talking... But you're talking percentages, aren't you? And that's certainly not an ideal, even though it's 7 days later, obviously, when this game's played. But I think Richmond are a very good team. I mean, they got to the preliminary final last year, had a bad loss in that, of course, but that was without Tony Free, their captain, who's still out, but without Matthew Richardson, who is they're probably their most dangerous forward. So with him back, they've got to be a better side than they were at the end of last year.
Richmond, what they did, I found on Saturday night also, their midfielders are exceptional. I mean, apart from getting countless disposals, I mean, they're so good at doing both sides of the game. I mean, they defend so well and can restrict opponents and at the same time get possessions. They all do it well. Daffy was a good performer across that half-forward line. Chrissy Bond, well, he popped up and finished with 4 goals and was
He's a very valuable player.
Has become that.
He takes the opposition's best on baller, normally prevents them from doing well. Craig Lambert was his opponent on Saturday night, wasn't he? And on Saturday he kicked the 4 goals, which really tops it off.
Well, Lambert was still a fair player, but kicking across his body and not really using it.
The Bears' first loss under lights at the Gabba. They certainly kicked off well in that situation late last year with a couple of wins at the end of the home and away season, and a record crowd for the Gabba. Of course, a new grandstand up there now, and extended capability for the ground to take in pretty big crowds, but still it seems that the Bears are capable of filling that famous ground. Well, let's go to Waverley. Saturday's match between Hawthorn and North Melbourne, and perhaps the player of the 96 season so far. It's a young season, a young player is North's athletic ruckman, Corey McKernan, who from spending most of his time in attack in his brief career thus far has suddenly become a star on Baller League.
Well, virtually what he does the centre bounce ruck work, but after that he's virtually playing as a centre half forward. Now the problem is his opponent happens to be the opposition ruckman for the other team, which was Stephen Lawrence on Saturday. Now that setup is just absolutely killing them for North, and I mean, if I was still coaching and all the other coaches in the competition, I have to be thinking, how do they cope with this situation? Justin Madden in that preliminary final last year was, with the help of a couple of his teammates, was smart enough to try and go forward himself to make McKernan come with him. But, I mean, here you've got a good centre-half forward who is capable of being a good ruckman. That's a difficult package, isn't it?
Who would you prefer, Lee? A tap ruckman out of the middle like a Justin Madden, or a player like McKernan that can get 20 touches, and he finished with 2 goals on the weekend as well? Yeah. Who would you go for?
Well, I think of McKernan, except the one big guy who has been surviving, is certainly up to last year, I think he's gone now, is Justin Madden, because Justin absolutely dominates the ruck work. Now, if you're not going to be a mobile player around the ground, you absolutely have to dominate those ruck situations. And if you're not doing that, then McKernan, that McKernan type, is just a tough player to match.
Can he win the Brownlow?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
And Lee, this is becoming a new syndrome, or it seems to me, in conversation about football, the analysis from people like yourself, the player who's hard to match up with. We've heard Brad Pearce, Kouta, and this is one we're now hearing it about it.
Yep.
Is this what coaches more and more are going to be looking for? A player who, I suppose, is highly versatile. He can do the things that a player of his stature is naturally good at, and he can do them exceptionally well, but he can also do other things as well.
Well, yeah, I suppose that's true, but at the same time, you've got to have the player in the first place. And as I say, Corey McKernan is an exceptional talent. I can't recall another player who's been a very good or capable of being a good centre-half forward and capable of being a good ruckman. That's a very hard.
They tell it all. 21 possessions a match so far, 8 marks and 17 hitouts.
That's right. Yes, I know. I've seen actually the 3 North games, and they've been very good in each of them. And Dennis Pagan really is an excellent coach. I mean, he has got a very good talent at making the opposition, or putting the opposition players into places where they don't want to be. For instance, he hasn't got any concern. He could play any one of 8 players at full forward to draw an opposition small player to make him play full back. You know, things like that. And I think I just enjoy watching North play. Now I'm not coaching against them.
And you don't have to suffer that headache at the end of the day.
Yeah, of the way he sets the team up.
Their performances over the last 3 weeks, though, can you read a lot into it? St Kilda, Footscray and Hawthorn.
Yeah.
You wouldn't put the 3 sides in the
no, you're right.
The top bracket or middle order.
Yes, they haven't played the cream of the competition yet. That's for sure.
Has the test come? When will the test come?
I think the test's going to come over the next 19 weeks, really.
Might come at the Gabba this weekend. Be an interesting match.
Yeah, will.
Well, Brisbane, I believe, will bounce. So Anthony Stevens, I just want to make mention of him. He's been a terrific player since he's come back with possessions and his ability to work hard on the ball, and he really makes it hard for the opposition. How much has he sort of meant to North Melbourne? He's been a terrific
player.
A lot, hasn't he? He's been terrific. I've seen all their games too, and he hasn't played a bad one.
Once more, 30 possessions.
And they've made a virtue of the necessity of having to do something about their attack. They lost Longmire, and of course for a long time they have seemed one-dimensional with their emphasis on Carey. But 13 or 14 goal kickers in their match against Hawthorn. They seem to have many, many avenues home right now. We're going to take a break, and we're coming back with one of the game's all-time greats, Bobby Skilton.
On Movie Greats, that's exactly what you get. Great stars, great entertainment, great movies.
You're not the new coach.
It was the end of the line, his last chance to prove he was a winner.
I'm trying hard to believe that you know what you're doing. I know what I'm doing.
They were a bunch of easy beats, but all that was about to change.
In my book, we're going to be winners.
Together, they would go from zeros to heroes. Gene Hackman, Barbara Hershey and Dennis Hopper star in Hoosiers, this month on Movie Greats.
If you can play bad one day and putt well and still have a real good round. Right. That putting, when it comes down to it, most people like to see how far to go, but when it boils down to it, it comes to this.
True saying. Drive for show, putt for the dough.
Right.
Met that, that's it. The main club in the bag, putter. If you don't make no putts, it ain't nothing.
Step into Hollywood on TNT.
Welcome back. In the history of the game, only 3 men have been crowned triple Brownlow medalist. South Melbourne legend Bobby Skilton was one of those.
There have been few more committed, there have been few more courageous, there have been few more effective. Indeed, there have been few better players than Bobby Skilton. A true legend of the game, he was formally acknowledged as such this year when the AFL named him one of the 12 greatest footballers of all time in its Hall of Fame. He toiled wholeheartedly through 238 games with South Melbourne, winning 3 Brownlow medals and an incredible 9 best and fairests along the way. He ended his playing days one of the most decorated players the game has ever seen. But he would have swapped each and every one of those medals for the chance to hold aloft a Premiership Cup. He remains, however, an ornament of the game.
Picked up by Skilton. Oh, he false then, steadies and puts it right through.
Kicking them with both left and right foot, still can, no doubt. And I'm pleased to say no bruises under the eyes, Bob. There were a few over the years.
Yeah, copped a share, but and I think you know, they might as well give them a round ball these days. The way they're going, they're treating it like basketball and soccer.
Oh,
have you got that view?
Yes, I have.
They've
yeah.
just become too non-contact.
You know, some of these mallies and everything else. Like, you know, what do they expect players to do? You know, if you've got to support your teammate, and I don't think it does any harm to the game whatsoever.
Do you have any influence sitting on the board that reviews the laws of the game on that sort of thing?
No, not really in that respect, no.
In fairness, the AFL's attitude to that is not so much what they're concerned with in AFL games, it's the flow through down to junior competitions, and when they have a melee there, they really have a melee. That's their attitude of why they're trying to crack down on it. But as you say, now at AFL level, they're really a lot of nothing. That a lot of trouble's been taken over.
Yeah, I just think you've got to expect your teammate to support a teammate, and you know, I do agree though. I think in that respect it's got to be a little bit like the rugby league, where the third man in does get penalised because generally speaking he is the one who causes what you call a melee.
What about the game in general? I mean, it is played a lot differently from when you played, and when you started to speak at the outset here, I thought you were criticising the manner in which the game is played. Are you happy with the way football is?
We've got the greatest game in the world, Tim, and I don't care how it's played. It'll always be that way. It's great from a spectator point of view. It's great from a playing point of view. It's one of the rare games, I think, that people can, say, come out from America and watch for the first time and enjoy without understanding. There's not many games that you can watch and enjoy without understanding the game, and you know, most of our umpires do it.
I wonder what it will look like in another 50 years' time.
Oh,
not that you were playing 50 years ago, don't misunderstand me.
Improvement comes in everything. Everything that can be measured, people are better at. They run faster, they swim faster, you know, horses go faster. So why would football and other sports be any different because they can't be measured? The athleticism and some of the skills of the players these days, you know, to see Anthony Koutafidis pick the ball up with one hand and lift it over people, it's unbelievable. And that same player, there's probably never been a better athlete. You were talking about Corey McKernan. It's the athletes that are so good, that are so hard to combat. You know, you can sometimes work out a way a guy plays because he does this, he does that, but when they're such great athletes, they do the unpredictable.
One thing that is different this year is that there's no EJ Whitten overseeing it all. No doubt you're missing him, your first season of footy without EJ for many a long year. How did he compare as an athlete with the great ones?
Look, no matter when or where EJ Whitten played, he would have been the best. You know, he was a wonderful athlete, and to see Ted mark and go back and kick that spirally torpedo punt kick, that'll never be out of the memory. And you know, he really had everything as an individual, he had everything as a team player, and this is where, when people ask about the difference in EJ Whitten, it is that he was not just an individual, he was also a wonderful team player. To play with him in a stateside, he was the general. You know, as an individual performance, I don't think I'll ever forget a game at the MCG when Western Australia came across and were going to beat us for the first time, and you know, Ted was at centre half forward, and somebody in the media termed it as the traffic cop. He just dictated the situation from centre half forward.
Would he have needed to have been a bit physically different? Looking at you, I get the feeling on those old clips you were ahead of your time. Did you do a lot of weight work that others weren't doing then to build your upper body?
Never lifted a weight in my life.
Didn't you really?
No. I was a plumber by trade, which might have helped a little bit, but it didn't fit in with football, so I gave that away. And no, I think I was fortunate to have that type of physique, but when you've got that type of physique, you run pretty slow.
What sort of water did you drink? Because I'd like to have some of it.
and you kick drop kicks with left and right foot. I've never even seen anyone ever do that before. Back in sort of the earlier days, did anyone else ever kick drop kicks non-dominant side?
Oh, look, there were always players who did, and there were coaches who frowned against it. They, the greatest coach I've known was Norm Smith. Norm hated two-footed players. The players upfield didn't know which foot you were going to kick with, and they were entitled to
drop
know
kicks with your dominant side is tough. You used to kick them both feet. I mean,
and you say you genuinely didn't know which was your dominant foot.
Oh, I knew. Yeah, it was left. It was my left foot, and that's Peter Sumich will never stop kicking across his body. Left footers do it. I did it. I could run straight down the line and kick right foot, but I couldn't do it left foot. It's just one of those peculiarities. I think left arm bowlers are the same, and so on.
Well, let me correct myself. Then you weren't sure which was your more efficient kicking foot. One was longer and the other was straighter. Was that it?
Oh no, not quite. I was lucky as a kid that my father used to go down the park with me and kick the football back, and he wouldn't kick it back unless I kicked it the next one with the right foot. And I think it's one of the problems we've got these days. We've got kids with Vic kick, and I think Vic kick is really helping. We tended to drift away and have kids always training, always doing things in turn, and not learning which way, how to scrounger kick, how to, the old-fashioned marker shot.
Kick the kick in the schoolyard. That's where you learned, wasn't it?
Kick the kick in the schoolyard is far better, I think, than all the training in the world, because it's a different situation. When you're training, and particularly when they bring out the witches' hats, it's your turn, it's my turn, and everybody gets a kick, and that's great. But you don't learn just exactly where it's going and which way it comes out. Football now is a worry, I think, in the long term.
And do you follow the Swans as passionately as you would if they were the Bloods playing at the Lakeside Oval? I
don't think quite as passionately, but certainly still very passionate. And I loved last Sunday. We disappointed the first couple of weeks, but whenever Plugger is on the board, but it wasn't just Plugger last Sunday. See Chapman take the mark that he did, and Lewis when he's on the boil. But they were given a football lesson over in Adelaide. It's bad luck for Adelaide that Wren has suffered that injury. But I think Adelaide are going to be right up amongst it this year. They were a far better side without Darren Jarman. And when Darren Jarman's sitting there in the forward line, he takes so much pressure off everybody else.
And the Eagles, are they on the skids?
I was in Perth last week, and if you were reading the media, even before that game, it was doom and gloom. And they were talking about, how the quarterback was McKenna, and maybe he was the guy who set things up because he kicked out from full back. He was the guy who really started the situation, and they described him as picking up the lesser of the opposition forward, so that he could take the risks and such. Maybe Malthouse has got to change a bit. Maybe he's got to become more offensive than defensive. It's okay to be defensive when you've got the best defence, but take out of that defence Michael Brennan, John Worsfold, and McKenna.
Well, after the match at Waverley on Sunday, a very bad loss for the Eagles. Mick Malthouse said it was his darkest half of football. The Eagles had only 2 goals, 3 at the halfway point against Essendon and was soundly thrashed. He wasn't offensive, he was a little defensive when he faced the media.
No, it's not an off day. Look, I think it's going to be a very hard year. I think it's going to be a year that we have to very much weigh up the calibre of some of these players and also weigh up the options that are back in Perth. And if it means introducing some younger players, so long as we don't embarrass the club, we'll do so. But it's too simple to write off a loss like this, and we certainly won't be writing it off.
Does that mean you lower your sights? Does that mean you lower your sights?
No. I have never, and never have, in 13 years of coaching, ever to anyone said where we're going to finish. I don't put it down in the paper where the Eagles are going to finish. You do. We have our own ideas of what our strengths and weaknesses are, and that hasn't changed. Mine hasn't changed from the beginning of this year. I knew when we lost those players, I suppose when you lose a few more through injury doesn't help, but I haven't reorganised my anticipation of the expectation of the team.
So when you say you might have to look at other players back in Perth, could this be then a rebuilding stage?
I've said that, that's been well documented. I've said that right from the word go, if people listen. I said that we are in a transitional period where we're going to have to play younger players to take over the roles of senior players. And this is not and this, let me tell you, is not because of today's loss. I said that back in October last year. And I can't help where you blokes put us on the ladder. All I know is exactly what personnel we've got and where we have to go.
An interesting Sunday. Mick Malthouse saying it's going to be a very tough season for the Eagles. The Dockers broke Carlton's 18-game winning streak. Are they the new glamour team of the West? Are they the team of the West?
Amazing team, mate. They've got so many players we never hadn't heard of a couple of years ago, so they keep playing, I think, better than your sort of mind or your subconscious mind seems to think they're going to. But
they were better last year than any of us thought they were going to be, and I think it was refreshing last year to see Jared Neesham, when Kickett and Chisholm, just to name a couple, when they made mistakes coming out of defence and it cost goals, he never ever tried to stop them taking those risks, and they're great to watch. And when it gets down the other end, you've got Winston Abraham, who
isn't he exciting? I mean, when he takes off with the ball and bounces a couple of times, and then he's so balanced when he actually kicks on the run, isn't he?
And they've got Dirk and McManus on the wing, and young Bandy and Hunter at full forward. I don't think he played last week, but you know, they're kids that really have a little bit of excitement about them, and I really congratulate Jared Neesham for the way he has gone about it. He hasn't been another defensive coach.
Bob, we congratulate you on your great career. Of course, you've been congratulated on that many times. Thanks for joining us tonight. It's been our pleasure to have you.
Thanks, Tim. It's been a pleasure to be here.
And the Fremantle Dockers have Collingwood at Victoria Park this Saturday. That should be a very interesting afternoon in many ways. Just before we go, a final incident to study. John Barnes had an interesting close encounter of the third kind with Darren Jarman at Football Park the other night. I wonder if he really got close, Lee. Bit of a draft of it.
Well, I got a feeling he missed by more than it looked like here, but just as well he missed for both parties, really. I mean, it was a unconscious for Darren Jarman and probably a 6-week for John Barnes. But you can be reported for attempted striking, but I haven't sort of seen that happen for many years.
I'm sure he was only kidding. That's our story and we're sticking to it. Just before we leave you for this week, we'll have a look at the ladder. After 3 rounds, it does start to make some sense. North and Adelaide, both with thumping percentages, the only unbeaten teams, and then 6 teams with 2 wins and 1 defeat sit snugly in the top 8. Carlton, the 8th of them, and the Blues with a percentage below 100 now after a couple of not too big wins and a heavy defeat. And Collingwood West Coast, Sydney, Hawthorn, Footscray and Melbourne with the 1 win, and a familiar story just like it was last year, the Saints and the Lions down the bottom of the ladder, and they play at Waverley Park this Saturday, so it should be breakthrough day for one of them, Lee. Looking forward to another weekend of it all.
Absolutely.
Thanks for being with us again for another edition of Football Feedback. We'll see you next week. Good night.